This video is part 2 of how to create a V-neck t-shirt. Where we left off in the part 1 video is we created a sketch that looks like this. Now all we need to do is add the V-shaped neckline that's filled with rib, as you can see here, and we also need to do the back view. So whether you did the technical flat CAD version or the stylized flat CAD version, either way the same method works. So just follow these steps along and you will finish the V-neck t-shirt with the rib neck collar. So first thing we need to do is, if you started off with a different color other than black for your CAD drawing, we want to always make sure that our CAD presentations are always in black and white. And they always have a black stroke outline. So in order to fix that, you can just hover over the CAD that you just finished, and you're just going to do a select same stroke color. Select same stroke color. Anytime you work with a different color and you want to change it all the stroke lines to black, this is the way you do it every time. Select same stroke color. And once you select same stroke color, click on, and notice it's going to select everything that's red. So you can see all my drawings here, my half flat CADs are all drawn in red. So it selected everything that was in the same stroke color, which was red. So I'm going to take the stroke box next and make sure to click on it so that the corner is overlapping the fill box. And then you go to window color. If it didn't already pop up for you, window color, it looks like this. Remember, there's that black and white chip available for us always there, so I like to use window color for that. Make sure your stroke box is on top. Click on the black chip, and now click off of the drawing, and now you see all those red filled stroke lines that were once red are now black, including your stitching. I must have used a different red color here than I used on the stroke line on the body. That's why this didn't fill, but this red that I used on the top stitching was the same red as the body. So it filled all the stitching, all the fabric motion lines, everything that once was red is now black. So that's how you're going to always change your stroke colors from a pop colored back to black when you're finished drawing the body. So now that I have that all changed to black, now I'm getting ready to create the rib collar, which looks like this. Let me zoom in on this for you. And the rib fabric is just a series of vertical lines. If you ever look at your t-shirts, you'll see very fine vertical lines on the rib neck collar of a t-shirt, whether it's crew neck or v-neck, and it's filled inside a v-neck shape. So it's a different fabric that's cut and sewn than the body fabric, and it allows the neckline to stretch a lot more. Rib fabrics are always very stretchy. So you need that in an area like to go over top of your head when you dress yourself with this t-shirt. So here's how we're going to do the rib v-neck collar. So first thing I'm going to have you do is you're going to object group your drawing. Once you've finished it, every time you're finished a drawing, you're going to hover over it with the black arrow and select all of it and object group, so that you don't, nothing that once was separated. Remember, there was stitching that was separated, a neckline that was separated. I want to make sure everything is grouped together now before I start to draw a rib collar over top of it. So object group. So here's my object group front view. And we can do, actually, let's do the back view real quick. So in order to do the back view, let me just move this over. We always use our front views to create our back views because it just makes life so much easier. Don't ever draw a back view from scratch. So we're going to copy and paste our front view. And then all you have to do most times for a back view is just delete off a couple things, redraw a couple things, but most of it's the same as the front view. So once I did that, I can actually just use the white arrow. Even if my body CAD is grouped, as long as I use the white arrow, because white arrow selects individual points and shapes, individual points and line segments, I can click on anything and just delete off certain things. So for here, all I have to do is change this neckline on the back view to look like what you see here, which is more of a crew neck shape. So what I want to do is I'm going to zoom in, take my zoom tool right here, zoom in on the neck, take the white arrow, click on the area that's the V-shaped neckline, and I'm going to look at how many points I have here that's creating that V shape. I don't want it to be a V shape in the back view. I want it to be more of a crew shape, which is a little bit lower than the shoulder. So I'm going to take the white arrow and just click on those points that make up that V-shaped neckline. and then I'm going to click on another, I'll click away and then click back on the other point and delete. And I hit delete, and then I'm actually going to, for the moment, because I can't see the back view very well, I'm going to take the white fill out of my body shape. And a white fill, now you can see that weird shape that I did earlier for the back view. I'm actually going to just delete off that whole thing. Okay, and now I just hit delete to delete off that interior back view thing that I did on the front view. Now I'm gonna take the pen tool and actually just connect these 2 points and make that same like subtle little dipped curve shape in the middle. So I'm gonna take the pen tool, hover over that 1 point until the minus sign appears. It means you're getting ready to select an individual point. Then to join while drawing with the pen tool, you hover over the next point that you want to join to until the little circle appears. That means you're getting ready to join 2 points together. So click on it when the circle appears, and then click and hold down because it's a curved line, and I want to just dip it ever so slightly in the center. And then we're going to release. So release by going back to the white arrow. So remember, even if it's not dipped, you can always click on the white arrow and pull at the curve handle and dip it a little lower. But basically the look of the back view neckline is just a little bit of a dipped shape, not a V shape like it is in the front. Other than that, it's the same exact view. So that's why it took like 5 seconds to do the back view. So don't ever draw it from scratch. Always make sure you copy and paste your front view to get your back view. And if you didn't ungroup your drawing at any point, all you have to do is click on it with the black arrow and it should be still grouped now with that new back collar shape. So now let's go to draw our rib neckline. So I have drawn a perfectly straight line right through the center of my garment CAD. And I just held shift and I drew it with the pen tool, 1 point at the top, 1 point at the bottom. You can see here just 1 point. So I held shift perfectly straight because you want to make sure it's a perfectly straight vertical line. And then I placed that line right directly through the center of my neckline. So I wanted to use that as a center front line that I used to have on my croquis figure. I used this red line now as a center front line. So please make sure it's a different color. Make sure you change it in your stroke box. And also make sure that it doesn't have a fill color in the fill box. So it's a loose piece. We're going to get rid of it later. We're only using it as a guide. Close that. And now we're going to just lock it. We're going to click on that body shape. And actually, we're going to do a quick thing and we're going to lock the whole entire body. So let's take the black arrow, hover over our body shape and our center front line and do an object lock selection just real quick, because anytime we're getting ready to draw over top of our garment CAD, I want to always lock it so that I don't accidentally grab onto it and mess up any of the vector points or any of the curve lines that I made so nicely in my body drawing. So just object lock selection. And that also includes the center front line. So now what I'm going to draw is a shape that looks like this. And I'm just going to show you how I drew it. But this is where I drew it over top of the existing neckline that I already had on my original drawing. I started, here's the number of points that are in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right here I started the center front line. I used the pen tool to do it. I drew 1 point here, 1 point there, and I held it and bended it because it's a curve line. Then I went from 1 point here to 1 point here, and that's not a perfectly straight line. It's actually just a diagonal straight line, so just click, click. Then click, click, bend, and that's another curve line, and then click, click, and hover over that next point until the little circle appears, means you're getting ready to join back onto the existing line, and that's a perfectly straight line right there. So that's my little shape that I drew, and I started it again against the actual body that I already had here. Started the center front line, clicked on 1 point, clicked on the other point. I bent. You might want to make sure you're maybe not so zoomed in, or else your screen will move. But actually, let me change the color so you can see. Change it to green. So this is my new neckline shape. So just click, click, then I'm going to hover over the next point that I left off at until the minus sign appears. Click on it, click over, and then I'm going to click down to the center front line again, And this is a curve line. So what I want to do is make sure the curve line is the same curve shape that I did very subtly here. It's going to mimic the same curve there. It's just going to be a few inches away. Then I'm going to take the pen tool again, hover over that last point until a little minus sign appears. Means that I'm getting ready to click back on the existing line segment. So click on it. And then when I'm getting ready to join two points together with the pen tool, I hover over the next point until the circle appears. And that means that I'm joining 2 points together. So that's how you're going to draw that shape. And once you have that shape drawn on one side, again, we do everything as a half of a drawing. I'm going to pull it off the drawing for a second because I want to fill it in with rib. And rib is done very similar to top stitching, the way we did top stitching using our window stroke box. So make sure your window stroke box is open. But first, there's just a slight difference between the way we did top stitching versus rib, and I'll show you in a second. So have your collar, this is your half of your V-neck shaped collar that's going to be filled with rib. And we're going to create rib, we're going to just take the pen tool, make sure, again, there's no fill color, only a black stroke color. And you're just going to draw a line segment straight through the middle of this collar shape, this half a collar shape. And it's a curve line because remember we had some curve lines in the middle area. You're going to draw that line segment right through the middle of that collar shape. And you're going to click on the word dash line in your window stroke box. And this is where the differences happen between how we create stitching and how we create rib. You're going to change the dash and gap numbers, and you're also going to change the weight of the stroke line. That's the main differences between how we do top stitching and how we do rib. The dash number is going to be, let's try a 1 point with a 0.5 gap. Let's see what that looks like. And then we're going to do weight of stroke line is going to be 20. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. So that's basically the bigger the number of stroke weight means the line becomes more vertical. When the stroke weight is less, it's just like a little horizontal line across. Your dash and gap numbers are the spaces in between. So I actually feel like I need a little bit more space in between my rib lines. So I'm actually going to lessen the dash number to maybe 0.5 PT. And I'm going to increase the gap number to 1 PT. And that's actually what I want. So 0.5 PT dash with a 1 PT gap. And then weight of line, it can be 20 or anything above like 14 or 16 is fine. Basically what you want is your rib lines to be taller than the actual collar shape. So because what we're going to use next is called a clipping mask. So the clipping mask is actually going to do what you see here. It's going to fudge all the little rib lines into this collar shape and not go outside of the boundary. So the first thing to make a clipping mask, and you can do this on any rib collar that you decide to do a shape on in the future, whether it's a V-neck or a crew neck, doesn't matter. Same procedure. Take the black arrow, click on your collar shape, which you see here. I clicked on it and you can see it's highlighted in blue. We're going to object arrange, bring to front. We're going to make sure that's on top. Even though you bring to front, you might not notice it did anything. It did. It brought it on top of the rib. The next step is you're going to hover over with the black arrow, and you can even just hover over a corner. You don't have to hover over the whole thing, to select both the collar shape and the rib line. You can see when I zoom in that they're both selected because they're both highlighted in blue. The collar shape is highlighted in blue, and the rib line, remember, that's actually a stroke line that we just turned into rib. So it goes right through the center, and you can see that blue line is highlighted. So now they're both selected because I hovered over them both with the black arrow, and they're both selected. Next thing you go is object, clipping mask, make. Object, clipping mask, make. And you can see what happened. It just took my collar shape and filled it with rib. But what happened also is I lost that nice black stroke outline that I had before. So what I want to do is click on the stroke line here and turn it to, go to window color, and make sure the stroke box is on top. click the black stroke line, and then you can see it comes back. So that's all you have to do is just once you fill a rib, you just add that stroke line back in there. So now I have a half of a collar shape that's filled with rib. And all I have to do is copy and paste it, Command C, Command V, object transform, reflect it, like we do with all of our half a drawings. And then we can bring it over, and it literally would meet perfectly if I line them up here and here, but what I want to do is create something that looks like this. So what I'm going to do here is actually copy and paste my left and my right side of my collar until I have a shape that looks like this without rib. So all I have to do to get rid of the rib, and I could have done this before I filled it with rib, is I just take the white arrow, click on the center line that made up my rib, because remember it's just a stroke line. And I actually can just, let me see something here. Yeah, there we go. We can just make a no fill in the stroke box, and that gets rid of the rib line that once was in there. Now it just takes it back to the collar shape that it once was, and you can actually just copy and paste that collar shape again and just reflect it on the other side. Okay, so our goal is to have two halves of the collar shape, two halves of a rib filled shape. And actually, now that I think about it, I actually just wanted this right here without the stroke outline. So I'm just going to take that stroke color off of the rib one, so you can see it looks like that. I just click on it with the white arrow, take the rib black stroke outline off it, turn it to a no fill. That's actually what I needed it to do, because I forgot that I was going to do this shape. This shape is important because a V-neck shape, instead of doing two halves right here, we want a very seamless transition between the two. So I'm going to put these two together. So let me zoom out and create a little open space for us to work. And take these two halves together. And I'm going to line them up. Zoom in on them. And what you can do, because you copied and pasted them, is you can actually, to make sure they're aligned, you can hover over both of them with the black arrow and do a window align. And you know, you can do your vertical align top, and they will align them flush against the top. So that's all I wanted to do, is make sure that those pieces were aligned to the top. So you can also, if you say, for instance, if they're really far away from each other and they have a gap like that, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move left and right, very small movements. Sometimes I use the arrow keys instead of manually doing it by hand. Because I don't want to lose that alignment to the top. I just want to bring them a little closer together. If you want to move them ever so slightly, just move your mouse so slightly, but usually the arrow keys sometimes can work as well. If you are going to move them manually with the mouse like I'm doing here, because I see a slight overlap, you will have to do a window align again one more time. So once you have it aligned, and your goal is to have them kind of look like they're meeting up together at this intersection. But what I want to do is create something that looks like this without that line segment in the middle. So I want to click on, using the white arrow, click on the line segment that's in between these 2 points and hit delete. Just once. Because I only want to delete this line only. I'm going to click on this one as well on the left hand side with the white arrow, hit delete. Just one time, and you'll see the line segment disappeared in between those two. So then I want to take the white arrow now, and I want to, actually, you know what we can do? We can just take the black arrow, hover over the whole entire collar, and do right click join. Or not. Okay, that didn't work. So we'll have to do our other join option, which I showed you in the earlier video, is to just manually join it together. So take the white arrow then and pull down this point until it's level with the other point, because basically what I want to do is join these 2 points together, and I want to make sure that intersection is more of like a V shape with a pointed edge. So I'm going to click on one point, hold shift, click on the other point until both points are blue, and then I'm going to do a Command J to join. And you can see the two are joined, but look how it kind of pivoted downward. So I'm just going to take that 1 point using the white arrow and just lift it up a little bit, because the intersection should be nice and seamless, like a V-shaped intersection. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom of the collar. I'm going to click on 1 point with the white arrow, pull it down a little bit. Again, just so I can find a level playing field here when I join the 2 points. And now let me zoom in here on the bottom so you can see. 1 point is filled with blue, one is white filled. So I'm going to hold shift to select the other point and turn it blue. That means they're both selected. Then I'm going to do Command J to join. And now I have my 2 points joined. And again, if anything, this looks like actually a nice seamless transition. Pointed edge, but if it ever got weird and it moved down a little further, all you have to do is take the white arrow and click on 1 point and level it out. All right, so we're looking for nice level intersections there, but this is the goal, to have a V shape that looks like this. And then all we have to do is take the black arrow, click on our rib shaped filled half shape collar, and just click on it and bring it over to meet and fill inside of that V-shaped collar. So you can see that I have this weird intersection right now here, and all I have to do is add one loose piece, and that's going to cover that up. So that little gap that you see between the two rib lines. I'm going to take my pen tool, and there's a no fill color and only a stroke color. I'm going to click on 1 point, hold shift, and click down, and it's just going to create with a 1 point stroke line a seam. So basically what happens is the rib collar gets cut and sewn, but these two halves get joined and sewn together at this seam. So now what I want to do, that's my full front view collar that's filled with rib. I'm going to take the black arrow, hover over the whole entire thing, and do an object group, because I want them to always be together, never separated again. And now I can bring it down to meet my body shape. And I'm just going to line it up along the center front line, along the neckline that I already had there. And now I actually don't need this red center front line anymore. So I'm going to just object, remember we locked our body CAD earlier, so I'm going to object unlock all. Anytime you want to unlock a body CAD that you locked, you just do object unlock all. So let me close some of these windows, getting a little crazy over here with the windows. Okay, so now I can actually just click on that red center front line, hit delete. And now what I want to do is draw the back collar. So what I want to do there is I can actually just draw it in the front view, or I can draw it in the back view. It doesn't matter. But if you're going to draw it, you want to make sure you lock the body again when you draw it. So if I have my back view already done, which you should, because we did that first, I'm going to just hover over this and do an object lock selection. Because if I can draw it here, I can just copy and paste it and bring it over here. So let's work with the back view for this. So I'm just going to draw a shape that looks like this, and I'm going to draw it over top of my body shape. And I'm going to fill it with white, and you can even object arrange bring to front to bring it on top. And you can see it covers up any seam line that was underneath, any part of the neckline that was showing through. Once you fill it with white, if you don't fill it with white, it will show. So make sure your collar is filled with white. So draw that, and I'm just going to show you up close what the points look like when you draw it. So if you click on the white arrow, I have 4 points. So I started here at this 1 point, clicked on one, clicked on the other, did a curve line. So I held down my mouse and curved and bend. And then I went from 1 point to the next point as a straight point, and then I curved, and then I went back and joined. So let's just quickly do that. And I'm actually going to use a different stroke color so you can see. Use green again. Okay, I didn't mean to change that to green, but we'll do it anyway. So I'm going to, for when I first draw it, I'm going to use a no fill in my fill box and only a stroke color so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start here on the left-hand side, click on 1 point, take the pen tool and click on the other point, but when you click, make sure you hold, because you're bending and holding and tilting down to copy over the neckline that you created already. You're literally just tracing over top. And then I'm going to release. So one thing to notice when you go from a curved line to a straight line, which is what's going to happen here, you want to release the tool in between that time and then go back to the pen tool and start drawing. Because if you go curved line to straight line, all it'll do is give you another curved line. So curved line to straight lines, you want to release the tool in between. So take the pen tool, hover over that point until the minus sign appears, click on it, and then click over, and again, follow the body CAD drawing, because you want to make sure your neckline is a little bit on the shoulder. And then you're going to go all the way over here to the other side of the body, but this is a curved line, so once you click down, you're going to click and hold and bend it so that the curved line is dipped in the center the same way it's dipped in the center up here. It's dipped in the center the same way down there. So again, release the tool, because anytime you go from a curved line to a straight line, you want to release the tool. Go back to the pen tool, hover over the line until the minus sign appears, click on it, and now this is when the pen tool is going to actually join the shape. So when 2 points are joined using the pen tool, you hover over that point until the little circle appears, and then when the circle appears, click on the point. And that means you have a joined shape using the pen tool. So now, and again, if you drew it and you're kind of like, oh, this collar looks a little thin, you can take the white arrow, you can move the points down across the shoulder a little bit if you want to make it a little bit chunkier. You can move the curve handle if, say, for instance, you didn't have the right kind of curve dip in the center like you have at the top, because you really want to make sure these two things mirror each other. That's your back collar shape. So just like we did with the rib and the clipping mask on the front collar, this is going to be a little bit easier because we don't need to do that separate V shape that we did before. So now let's change this to black. So let's go to our window color. Window color is probably already there, available for you. And let's make sure our stroke box is on top and change the green to black. And now this is where we actually can fill with white too. So if the fill box is on top, you can click on the white chip on the window color box and fill it with white. And you'll see it change right here. So now you're going to draw rib. So let's make sure our stroke boxes, we're looking at our stroke box when we're drawing rib. So we're going to take the pen tool and we're going to do a no fill color, only a stroke color. And you're going to take the pen tool and you're going to draw one line segment that's a curved line. So you're going to click 2 points and click and hold and bend down. And even if you don't get it right the first time, just make a curved line. We can always fix it later. Like I didn't have enough room. My mouse went off the mouse pad when I tried to draw that curved line. So all I can do now is I could just fix it. I can take the white arrow, move that point down a little bit more, because the goal is to have this this line that we drew right through the collar shape to be rib, and the rib needs to go right through the center of that collar shape. So this stroke line should be right kind of in the center. So you can always take the white arrow and manipulate that. That's fine. Now click on it with the white arrow, hit dash line on your window stroke box. And it should remember the last operation you did, which was rib. So it should remember your dash and gap numbers, but if it didn't, 0.5 PT is the dash, 1 point PT is the gap number, and the weight of the stroke line for this one, because the collar height's not as tall, we might be able to just do 7 points. 7 or anything, 10 is even better. It's always nice to start off with the rib lines to be taller than the actual collar shape. So I always kind of err on that side of caution. So then now the next step to make the rib fit inside of the collar shape is you're going to click on the black arrow and click on your collar shape, object arrange, bring to front. The collar shape always needs to be in the front. And you can see here, it's because we white filled it, it actually looks like it's on top. So then the next step is to take the black arrow, hover over both shapes, and do an object clipping mask make. And just like before, we lost our stroke outline, and this time we actually won it because we're not making a separate back collar shape like we did for the front view. So we're actually going to go to the stroke box, and then we're going to go to window color and find our black chip. Make sure the stroke box is on top. Click on the black chip, and that'll give us back our stroke outline. We want to make sure that all of our shapes have a black stroke outline around it. Then take the black arrow, move your collar back to meet your body CAD, and now you can copy and paste that same collar shape for the back collar, and you could put it in here because it's also going to show up in the front view, because remember, you get to see some of the back view through the front when you lay this garment flat on the floor. But what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to bring the front collar above the back collar. So bring it to front. So this, you can see in this intersection right here, you can actually see the back collar and the front collar intersecting. We don't want that, because in actuality, this back collar would be hidden and you only see it only in the inside neck and only on the back view of the garment. You would never see it here overlapping. So one way we can do that is we can click on the white arrow on our front view collar, which is, I want to make sure you see where I'm clicking on. So I click on the line segment somewhere that shows the whole entire front collar is selected. You can see the whole thing is highlighted in blue. Remember, we made that big long V shape that was all joined together. Click on that and see that it has a no fill. So go to your window color, fill it with white. Okay, so now that it's filled with white, you might not even notice that go away. You can actually click on the whole entire collar, now the front collar with the black arrow because it's grouped, and do an object arrange bring to front. And see what happens. Then now that little back collar that was overlapping is hiding. It's not gone, it's just hiding behind the front collar. Because the front collar is filled with white now, it has a color inside of it. You can hide things now. And because I drew that back collar a little bit wider on the back view, I'm actually going to just take the black arrow, which has a scaling function, and you can actually just pull it in a little bit. These little double-sided arrows. You can pull in left to right. Because the goal is to have this collar meet side to side. So you want to make sure there's nothing sticking out on the sides here, that the collar, because if you ever look at this collar in a real garment, it wraps around the head. So you want to make sure that nothing's sticking out. It all should look like it's touching the same width of neckline. So that's basically how you're going to do your front and back collar, and that's how it's filled with rib. Watch for the next lesson, which is going to be how to create a color block tee.